that learning curve, right? That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think what Max was trying to say is that like whenever in like the past couple of years it's been really hard for him to balance it. But then like this year, maybe he's realized like how much higher of a priority YPI is. If I'm wrong, just say something in the chat. But I think that's the gist of what you said, I hope.
Anyone else want to share about one-on-one interviews? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, when me and Derek had our discussion, and we kind of talked about, he kind of asked me like, what are your big priorities right now? I kind of did some deep thinking and really did realize that YPI is pretty much in the top 2 of my priorities, and kind of made me realize that I should probably pour a little more time into it, because just of how much it's taught me and how much it's meant in the past 3 years.
Anyone else? I think I took a lot from the calls, and I hated to see that maybe like that there is guilt in being YPI. Like some people want to stick to the process because, you know, they don't want to feel guilty for not finishing it through. But, you know, sometimes the responsible thing to do is, and the grown-up thing to do is, you know, letting something go that brings you more guilt than joy. Because if you're in here just out of like guilt and obligation, it makes it really hard for us co-facilitators and Adam and Emily to make sure that you're engaged and that you're working if you don't really want to be. And I know that's kind of hard to hear, but it's just, we have to be kind of blunt about it. And we might have to make some executive decisions about the project for the people that want to take those steps and make those hard decisions, which comes down to, we talked about this with Adam a little bit, about how there's like 3 different, I guess, work ethics sort of in an organization. Adam, if you want to pull up that Venn diagram, that was kind of cool to look at. There's the strategic group, which is, I guess, here, I'll pull it up right now. Adam, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
He's muted right now, but what he's trying to say, I can imagine, is the strategic group is where you plan stuff, and the tactical group, actually, I'm sorry, Adam, you're unmuted now, so take the floor. The floor is yours.
No, that was great. Yeah, so in any organization, this is something I learned a while back, and nobody knows this. Every time I share this, it doesn't matter who, they haven't heard it before. And you can Google strategic, tactical, operational. You will find nothing. I've looked, all right. But it really helps. Your family, your school, any organization has these 3 roles. Now, sometimes a person might play all 3 roles. Sometimes a head of a family is all 3 roles. But all 3 roles must be fulfilled in an organization or it's in trouble. The first is the strategic role. You have to think out into the future. You have to be looking for threats and opportunities. There's a lot of businessy gobbledygook I have in here. Don't worry about that. It applies, but it's too much for what I'm trying, too much to go into now. So strategic needs to be going, wait a minute, if we want to thrive, not just survive, but that too. If we want to survive, then what do we got to pay attention to? And if we want to thrive, then what should we pay attention to? And that takes a whole lot of work that doesn't look like work. It takes a whole lot of work that doesn't look like work, because where do you go? What do you do to plan for the future, to seek opportunities? It's about vision. It's about really seeing a bigger picture. You have to have an ownership mentality to think this way. And if you're just there as a renter, if you're just there as a short-termer, if you're just there to go through the motions, you can't be strategic. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be, just for the sake of survival. Tactical is where you convert some strategies into tactics. And I have my graphic designer working on a little graphic. I'll show you. If I can pull it up, hold on. It's right here at my fingertips. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to switch my share for a minute. I'm going to show you what I mean by strategy, tactical, and then when I say operational, I mean the actions. I mean the day-to-day actions, and without which you do not produce outcomes. Every single one of these is necessary, and they need to be linked. I work in a lot of organizations as a consultant where the strategic level, it looks like this. This is why I love Miro, because you can just do stuff like this. All right, so I've seen organizations where it's like the strategic is over here. It's like the board of directors or the president or the owner, and then the tactical layer and operational layer are over here. So strategic, tactical, operational. I call this the floating head scenario because it's like this head is floating away and the body can't connect. But I've also seen it the other way where it's like the strategic and tactical are connected, the senior leadership and the mid-level managers and the operationals over here. When you hear about unions forming, that'll be a scenario that's an example of that, okay? But really, as any organization, it needs to be this way. And if it's not this way, it'll fail. It won't sustain. So this is what I mean. This is what, when I talk about alignment, this is a way of understanding alignment. And so we need all three roles. And if you just want to be an operational role, that's cool. But don't pretend to be over here. You're just going to wait to hear what the idea is coming down that way. And I don't know, some people want to be that way. I never did. I always thought it was risky, but I always want to be at the strategic. But sometimes you got to play your role. Tactical is about mid-level management. If you like making sure plans are tidy and neat, then that's a great role for you to play. That's mid-management. You're about planning and projects and structuring things. This here is about ideas and vision. But when I teach this to people, I say this, even if you're the strategic person, you still need to have, you're going to think this is kind of cool, you're still going to need, or maybe you will, I don't know, you're still going to need to have a little bit of tactical and operational. So it's like this is your ratio. If you're a strategic person, you have a lot of strategic, but you still need to have a little tactical and a little sense of operational. If you're an operational person on the other side, I don't know what happened to my mouse. My mouse has died, but if you're an operational person, then you want to have a little sense of the tactical, and then you have to have a little sense of the vision. And of course, tactical, you need to have a really balanced sense of strategic and tactical. So you'll understand it. You'll see that. You've already seen this happening. Your schools are organized this way. Your superintendent and board of whatever are your strategic level. Your principal and maybe department heads are your tactical level. And your teachers and janitors and you as students are the operational level of a school. And YPI is no different. It needs to have all three roles. None is more important than the other. It's just, and you will never hear anybody else talking about this. And this is kind of an advanced level leadership lesson I wasn't planning on presenting, but there it is. I'll stop there because that was a lot and maybe more than Edie wanted. So
No, it's great. Thank you.
you bet. I'll stop sharing when I get my mouse working again so I can click the share. Or if you could take over the share screen, that'll make it faster. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to say something that Elena said. So yeah, she just made a comment on like how we are shifting roles maybe. And yeah, that's like pretty well reflected in the responses that we got from the one-on-one calls as well. A lot of people, they were just saying like, you know, if you give me a task, then heck yeah, I'll do it. So, you know, we might have like shifted more towards the operational side, which is, you know, which just means like at this point, like, you know, the strategic needs to have already been like set in stone. And we're kind of going to talk about that a little bit today. But do you think we're ready to move on to that, or should we talk some more about the results? Actually, we probably should talk more about the results. It's only 3:18.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can pull up mine just for my own viewing. I appreciate all of you being honest with us about where you feel like you stand and about the project and where we are. And where you want to stand within the project. And I'm going to just kind of touch on maybe some homework that we'll have for you guys. Oh, Parrish, yeah?
Yeah, I was just gonna comment on the like what we just did for the calls, and I was gonna say I think you and Derek did a very good job of doing it. I think it's been known for quite a while that we have issues that have been happening, but I think it's been a lot of finger pointing rather than taking initiative and having a conversation. And I think you and Derek did a great job of actually hosting the conversations in a way to actually find some of the bigger issues and make a more collaborative solution of how we're going to actually get something done now rather than kind of pushing the issue onto someone else, which I thought was very good. And I liked the way you executed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. So I think that, the calls help everyone reflect about where they stand. And like Adam was saying, it's important to have all three roles. And it's also important for us to know where you stand. So after the call, I think it would be appropriate if everyone sent a message, an email to Derek and I, just reflecting on where you think you stand in the cohort, whether, maybe we use that, the strategic, tactical, or operational. Just like if you in YPI and why. Like if you're in for the long run and you're ready to, again, all three roles are important, and it's important to have the strategic, it's important to have the tactical, it's important to have the operational, and all three roles are needed. But it's going to help us if we know where you stand and why.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Derek, if you want to clear that out.
Oh, so just like a too long didn't read, but like a quick summary of that. So your assignment for this coming week until the next Sunday progress session is to have an email or message sent to Edie and I about why you want to be in YPI, essentially, and then like what role you think you would play. It would be helpful to us to like validate kind of like your responses to this. But yeah, to maybe give a little bit more reassurance to Alana, and like summarize the results a bit more. I don't think anyone actually said they want to leave YPI. They all said for varying reasons that they wanted to stay. Edie, do you want to? I noticed you unmuted.
Yeah. No, everyone wanted to see this through because, we've been here from the beginning and we've gone through a lot of ups and downs throughout this whole process. And I think that everyone, whether they were always supporting of our topic and idea or have grown to support it, like you've all been here through the whole thing and you want to see it through. And I think that's really important. We just need to help figure out where you stand in the project so that we can maybe make some executive decisions to move forward, because I think we all want to see a product, and I think a lot of people express to me that they think we can still make something great. We just need to start working. Adam, if you think we can maybe start talking about our suggestion for moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. It's up to you all first. The idea is what you all said you heard, and I don't know if you talked about this enough, and I want to confirm with the cohort, but that you heard that a lot of people were basically like, hey, I'm willing to do whatever needs to be done, but I need to be told what to do. So then that might have indicated why it's been hard to find a direction, because when we've been looking for consensus, a lot of people were like, I don't really care. And so it was hard to get a feel for excitement in any one direction. Yeah. Even if some people were excited, we could never get the whole cohort excited. And maybe it was just like, no, we would have done anything. We just wanted to know what to do. And I want to, if that is the thinking, I do want to challenge that, for you to go forward, to not engage that way necessarily, but to actually have more of a sense of like, here's what I want to bring about. But in either case, if that was the consensus, is like, hey, at this point, I'm ready to get to work. Just point me and tell me what to do, and I'll do my best. then we just happened upon an idea, and I'm happy to describe it, but let me just stop there and see Derek, Edie, and anyone else, any thoughts, questions, or anything like that.
So-
I'm gonna touch on, Graham made a comment just because his internet's spotty, but one thing we discussed together was the shift to political issues, because I think we knew that politics was important from the beginning, but over these 3 years, it's shifted a lot and become really hectic and very dynamic subject. And so shifting to something more political, or just, shifting something more local to us seems more obtainable, and it's super important too. He mentioned, for example, the turnout of our election for our city mayor was just abysmal this year. Voter turnout was really small. And maybe that's something that we can just keep on mind. But I enjoyed that conversation with you, Graham, so thank you. But
yeah.
go ahead.
I'm gonna go ahead and like maybe lead into this thing that Adam was just talking about. So yeah, it's like summarizing, at least from the people that I interviewed, overwhelmingly the magic wand that we said, like we asked just for Lynn and Atlanta, and a refresher to you guys too. So there was a question, it's like, if you could wave a magic wand and like fix everything that you thought was a problem with YPI and make it great, what would that magic wand actually do? And an overwhelming response was that the magic wand would basically move us from the stage that we are in now to a do stage. So everyone would have tasks and it'd be very straightforward what they would do. And kind of, whenever I like followed up on that question, I was like, so does this mean that the magic wand would essentially give us, like give the cohort the idea of what to pursue, and like have that be the final say, and then like basically make everyone on board with it? They were like, quite a few people were like, yeah, that's pretty much what the magic wand would do. So I see Adam waving a magic wand right there. And so like, if you want to, this is totally credit to, actually, yeah. So Adam, if you want to introduce that idea, or have Edie and I introduce it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll kick it off, and then, it's just an idea, but it was from a call that Emily and I were having this weekend. Was it this weekend? Was it Friday? I don't even know.
Yeah,
Friday?
it was on Tuesday.
Or that. With the Simulation Center at OU Tulsa. And they've gone through some changes in leadership, but the new director there has been, and her main person on the staff, they have been observing and working with Cohort 11 in their project. And I've been watching them, and Emily's the one who really commented on how those two women regarded the students, like treated them as professionals or equals, or even as like their client, how can we support and help? It was really cool, because a lot of times the adults will look to Emily and I, like if we're in meetings with students, and Emily and I have to be like, don't talk to us, we're just here as the eye candy, and then they talk to the students. But these two, they naturally, and when we were talking about the handoff, it was I've done several handoffs of projects between students and their handoff at their home. This was, to me, like the one that just click, 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 everything just clicked into place. You know how like, you ever meet people where that just happens, right? And so just in that moment, I said, well, what would you think about a simulation on the topic of civil discourse, And I don't know, is that how I worded it, Emily, or something like that? Civic engaged, or something about like political conversation or something. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, but can I give before we go that far, I want to make sure they know what the Simulation Center is. Like, just by like a nod, would you nod your head if you're like, I know what the Simulation Center at OU Tulsa does, like what the purpose is, the point? Right. Okay, yeah. So just real quick, so it's like an in-person laboratory, and it's used by the School of Community Medicine, the School of Social Work, I think a couple of the other programs, as a way for students to learn experientially. So like I'm an MSW, so if I were in that program now, I would be using, they would have like an actor who would come in and present like a client or a patient and maybe a complicated scenario, and I would go in as the student and basically interact with that actor patient through this lab, sort of simulating what it might be like to be in a counseling session with someone, or for a medical student, they would maybe go in and the actor would be simulating a certain like symptom disease presentation or something like that, and the student would have to navigate that and then get feedback from their professors who are watching it, or either watching a recording of it. But they also host like the poverty simulation that I think some of you all have participated in, maybe familiar with. They have a simulation called In Her Shoes, which is for that has to do with domestic violence survivors. Anyway, what they're doing is really awesome. That's my opinion. But also in the academic world, this type of learning is growing by leaps and bounds. What? Yeah, I still didn't hear you. Anyway, I just wanted you to have some context for what they do. And so because you all are familiar with Cohort 11's project, you can see how that might be a natural fit as something that the Simulation Center might own and then take to different groups, or there might be organizations that would want the Simulation Center to host Culture Bridge. In fact, all of the conversation got stirred up in the last 2 weeks because someone at the city's office approached a Cohort 11 grad and said, hey, we want to host the simulation, where is it? And so anyway, just to give you some context for what they do. And now Adam, you can set up this conversation that we had with her that led to this idea.
Very good. Excellent. 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 So, so the idea was, first of all, they said, well, what we want, the first thing we want to do with Cohort 11's project is we want to have everyone, we want to make it available within OU and have as many people who work at OU and students too go through it. So that was really cool. That told me ownership. And then and so that's the whole tone that made me say, well, to this, what's her name again, Emily? Kristen. I said, well, what would you feel about working with a group of teens similar to Cohort 11, but on a different project on a much shorter timeline that dealt with the topic of political conversations or something like that. I can't remember exactly how I said it, but she got super excited right away and said, that is totally needed. And she started rattling off like different skills that could be practiced. And I never thought of it that way because we'd always been talking about the issues. And then I never thought about the skill. We might have mentioned it at one point, but the skills, and here are some she mentioned. How can you actively listen when somebody's presenting something you disagree with? And a simulation, as Emily described, would be just about the only real place you could practice that skill, right? I mean, I can describe it in writing or talk about it in a video, but to actually have to role play it, that would be really developmental. Or how to separate your emotions from the logic. Not that you have to surrender your emotions, but just to recognize, am I being logical or being emotional right now? Just to separate that through simulation. I think it would allow people to talk about the politics in a way that could calm things down. Even if not everybody in the conversation was trained in this stuff, one person who can manage his or her inner neurology to maintain that state could really be a factor. You know, she just listed other skills, and I was like, oh, right. So that would be an idea where you would have a home and somebody who's an expert in the process of developing simulations and someone who's interested in a topic you have that happens to be at an institution where we're housed. And it just seemed like a lot of things clicking together. And given where we are as a cohort, is that something you'd be okay with someone calling the shots to make something happen and start building something where you would have I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it there. I think I've said enough for you guys to ask questions or have opinions.
Yeah, this is the magic wand.
And I want you guys to be brutally honest about what you think of this, because, you know, for the people that really wanted that clarity and direction, like, this is an option for that. But for those that maybe are frustrated like voice that now, because this, we have 7 months left. So,
Yeah.
we have to
So
manage
Julian,
that
I
time.
saw your hand is raised.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea, Adam. I think that it gives like the people who want just like straight tasks to do, I think that's a really good way to get that, because I don't know, I just see that working out so well for people. There'd be a lot more things to do very clearly, instead of just like coming up with the things to do. I don't know if that made any sense, but I really do appreciate that idea, and I think that's a wonderful resource that we have now.
Maya.
I just wanted to say I agree with Julian. I think it would be a good way, because I think there's a lot of us that are more like, I don't know, like task oriented. They want something like a task to be given to them and they can get it done and do it in their own way, and be creative in that sense. So I think that would be really good. And I think it would be like, I don't know, it's encouraging to know that like we're not too late. We can still have a partner and a home for our project where it can like continue after we're all graduated and stuff. My question was, Adam, you said that they would be like someone else like calling the shots and stuff. How involved would we still be in like some of the bigger decision making with
I
that?
actually think they wouldn't call any of the shots. I think you guys would call the shots, but it would be more like we'd need a section of you, a leadership team within the cohort to help, which I would call the strategic level, to call the shots. If you've ever seen the movie Starship Troopers, it's totally divided this way. I just mention it because it's on a comeback. And when I watch them, and when I see everything through this lens. It is the strategic level, the tactical level, the soldiers are the operational level. You'll see it in every organization. Anyway, so that's who would call the shots. The simulation center would be, I would call them your SMEs, which is, if anybody know the term SME? Subject matter expert. Your SME is a subject matter expert. You all, I would love for you all to set your goal as becoming subject matter experts in whatever your passion is. That's a great gauge for growing your career, becoming a subject matter expert. Anyway, but yes, and so you have a rare subject matter expert in simulation creation. That's a rare expertise. And as Emily said, it's one that's going to grow. Having that on your resume, not too shabby, I'd say.
Thank you.
Especially in colleges where we're looking for new learning devices. The whole learning model is up in the air. Simulations, that's something with the stock on the rise. All right, Derek, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, Parrish, I'll get to you in a second. But so yeah, to clarify, I think what Adam meant by calling the shots is like they would be giving us the clarity that we so desperately are looking for at the moment. Yeah, go ahead, Parrish.
So I'm a fan of the idea, but I also was a fan of having a simulation from the start. So I think the people we should be listening to right now are particularly the ones that because the team voted against just doing a simulation. Like this isn't a brand new idea exactly. We discussed having our main project being a simulation, and we decided not to do that for a reason. There are a lot of people in the cohort that didn't want to see that. I was one of the ones that liked simulation, so I still agree with it, but I definitely want to hear from the people that were very against simulation and what might change their mind to want to do this if they do now, at least.
Yeah, great point. I want to hear from, be brutally honest. We need to hear it. So.
I get what you're saying, Parrish, but I also think like we're at a different point than we were when we voted against simulation. We had a lot more time, and like we had a direction that we were going in, and so simulation just didn't work best for that. But I think that where we are now, and with the limited amount of time we have left, I definitely think that I just definitely think that a simulation could be very helpful right now. I think it's more feasible, but I get why, I just think it's a different time. I think that's why I think it's a good idea now.
Go ahead, Nina.
Yeah, I agree with Julian. I think that at the place we are now, I think that this like resource that we have at OU Tulsa is very like it came at the right time. And I told Edie in our meeting, like I was personally worried that like our project wouldn't really come to fruition if we were like still stuck on this, like which direction do we go? Like what are we gonna do? Like what topics are we gonna focus on? But I think having OU Tulsa as that like resource and like having that as our home, I feel like that kind of takes away some of the pressure that we were feeling on like partnerships and all of that. And I think that we can all really focus on creating this project in the time that we have and like not really have to worry about the other things that we needed at the time, like when we didn't have a partner, we didn't have all that other stuff. And I think that this is going to be helpful for us.
All right, Parrish.
I was just gonna say that, I mean, I like agree exactly with what Julia and Nina said. I wasn't saying I didn't like the idea. I think it's kind of a great option right now. I was just trying to say that I wanted to hear the opinions of those that didn't agree with it, at least originally, to see if those people changed their mind. Because at one point that was the majority. And I don't think us being in a rush should have us not at least listen to the opinions of those people. So I just wanted to hear them out. That was all my point was.
All right, Miller.
Yeah, I think that we're at a point where we really, really need to make a decision. So I'm happy to move forward with this simulation idea. But I think the only complaint that I would have is just the reach that we could have if our central project were located online, like we were discussing before, is just exponentially larger. We could reach so many more people with that format. So I just think that's definitely something that we would have to think about, because with the simulation, it's just a limited number of people that would be able to access our project, I think. But other than that, I think it's a good idea.
I love that point, Miller. I think just the way that you're thinking about the project, that's great feedback in response to the questions that have been put out. And in fact, we should like write it down as something that if you all go this direction, that we bring up to the, what is it, Adam? SME, to Kristen.
Subject matter expert, yeah.
As experts in the creation of simulations, because I happen to know they're in the process of, they're having to adapt a lot to online, to virtual learning too, to do simulations in a virtual platform. So you bringing that up is, I think, a valid thing that we should, if you go this direction, bring up to them. Is there a possibility to scale this in a way that it could go on and in the virtual learning format?
I wanted to say, to your point, Miller, there's a book I like. It's called, I haven't read it, I just like the title. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And so when you point out an obstacle like that, it makes me go, oh, all right. So how can we take a simulation and have it have a wider impact? And I wanted to mention to you that when I first thought of this idea, one of the first flashes in my head was, you wouldn't have this product until after the election. And just know this is going to be a very painful time. And I pictured, a national newscast, not a local one, a national newscast. A group of teens in Oklahoma have already been working on this issue of how to have civil conversations in a time of extreme political distance or something like that, And so that to me is in doing a quality simulation, if it's done well and has an impact. And then if you have a good PR committee, and this is why it's, we divide up into the different committees, that the PR committee's job is to be the megaphone that would bring attention to your issue so that you have wider impact. Now, I will just say, we've told that to every cohort, but the PR committees in every cohort have always had one position, which is, we don't know what to do, And I'm like, there's no limit. And that's kind of the problem. So we need to make sure that, you have a great megaphone on this, and then talk and do it in coordination with Simulation Center for how to bring attention to your thing. But just because people can't participate in it doesn't mean they won't be impacted by it. But your question helps prompt us to think of ways. I also agree that Parrish's point is wise. Let's see if there's any other kinds of like concerns so that once we get going, we can release the brakes. All right. So we don't have to worry about running over anybody. We're all ready to go. We know everybody's objections are taken care of. So if there's any others, I think Parrish is right. We should raise them.
Daisy, go ahead.
Okay, so I think I'm like in the minority here a little bit. I don't love the idea, but I also recognize that in light of like how much time we have left and like the concerns that everyone like seems to have, I think that it's probably the best thing to do. And I'm like, I'll fully support it, like if that's the route we choose to go. But like, I just personally like, I don't know how to put it. I liked like the ideas from last week and I was really excited about them, and I love the idea of like us like creating our own idea, and like I just feel, I don't know, I don't feel like we're copying them, but I also don't feel like we're being original, which I know isn't the point, but it's just something that I was thinking about.
Could you take a leadership role in trying out like what a vision for a video could look like? Because then maybe that could trigger something or be part of the project as well. So it doesn't mean it has to be the exclusion of it, but I just think we just haven't seen anybody move any other ideas forward. So that's what we're checking out now is, should we not move this one forward or should we move forward? And with your thought, it sounds like you're saying we can move forward, but I'm actually saying if you have passion and maybe if there's a couple other people that they want to try out the idea from last week, why not? I think, you know, we're just past like kind of just waiting for people to be told what to do, but actually have people seize it, which is actually the word thriving comes from the Norse to seize or grasp, just a little factoid.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be a final product, highest quality, whatever. Like if you and one other person want to reach out to someone that you feel like has insight in something or an experience through the political world, like schedule a personal call with them, have some questions ready to ask them, and ask if you can record the call and go from there. You know, it's a minimal viable product, you know, like it doesn't have to be this crazy thing, but if that's something that maybe you want to dip your toe in, and you're going to learn something from it regardless. So Kylie just mentioned in the chat that she'd be willing to help with that.
Yeah, I do like what Adam said. You know, if you have the initiative, like go for it. Be a leader within the leadership program that is YPI. That'd be pretty interesting to see people take the initiative on that. Go ahead, Abby. I noticed that your hand has been raised for a long time.
I was kind of with Daisy on that. I was more like, in the beginning, I was a little bit against simulation just because it just seemed more confusing with how our project was going, like Julian had said. But I'm also with Adam where he said that if we go with this, we need to take the brakes off because we can't just like keep coming back. Like if we pick the simulation and go with it, then we have to like actually take initiative and go with it. But also Daisy, I would love to help if you want to do that whole video thing, because I actually really liked that idea last week, especially after watching the uncomfortable conversations. I just liked how that platform looked.
Ava said she would be on board too, and so did Michael.
Abby kind of said it like, you know, we were so in the beginning, a lot of us did want to do the simulation, but I think we just sat down, we pointed out all the negatives, and then now that it's this like, it's being brought to us that somebody, you know, could potentially home our simulation, are we going to still sit there and point out all of like the cons and like sit here and, you know, kind of make it fizzle out, or are we going to actually like, you know, take our foot off the brake and just like go and just like completely do it? Like, I just don't know, like, because we had all these ideas and then now it's like that somebody does want to home it, we're like, oh yeah, let's do it. But we also, if that makes sense, like we do have the other ideas that we do need to think about as well, if any of that made sense.
Yeah, I just want to add on that. I think that I don't think this opportunity will go away, and I think that we should explore the opportunity or the idea that we had last week also, because it seemed like a lot of us were interested in it. And if Kristen is actually interested in this, like in our idea and helming like a simulation for us, then I think that that opportunity will stay present. So I don't think that we should just cling to the first sign of like hope. Like I think that we should still explore some before we like give in 100%.
And then at what point would we then decide where to give 100% to, would you guys say?
I think that, sorry if anybody was going to chime in, but I think that we need to like immediately make like almost like a pros and cons list of both and see how many people are down to do the simulation or the website idea, and then just like immediately pick one and go for it. But that means that we can make a deadline like Maya just said, but like we need to just get it going like right now.
I've kind of seen this in the past. Not saying that that's like not what we should do, but like, in the past we've also had that thing was like deadline. We're going to choose like job resources or politics, right? And then we end up in this situation. So why not, like, if you have the initiative to also pursue the things that we were talking about last week, do it. And like, for the foreseeable future, like maybe the workload right now, we're still like working it out with Kristen. So it might not be that heavy. So like, if you like can prove that you actually want to do it, like take the initiative now, get this thing like rolling with the idea from last week. And then maybe you can just do both. Like, why not do both? Wouldn't that be really cool to have like, two projects, first cohort to have 2 projects, or something like that. Like, we don't have to cripple both projects, both ideas, just because not everyone agrees on it, right? So like, if you really feel passionate about the stuff from last week, take the initiative and do it. The reason why we're doing this right now is because we haven't seen the initiative. Like last week on our Friday meeting, we asked you to watch 1 10-minute video and like 3 people did it. That, I don't even know how I can get more clear than that, but there was no initiative. And so that's why we felt like this was necessary. But if you can show us that you have the initiative to pursue this too, then all the more power to you. That would be wonderful if we could have all of this increased initiative in like another project. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I'm taking up too much. So I think Julian has had her hand raised, so you can go first.
Yeah, just to Ava's point, like how you just said, like we could be like looking around, and I don't know, I just feel like just like my complete honest opinion, we kind of looked around for like a year last year. Like that's kind of what we did. So I feel like, like in that time, we definitely explored options, and we came up with like the best 2 that we had. And I mean, so I just kind of think like us taking more time isn't going to help us to look around, because we've already looked around for ideas, and also we only have a few months left. And I'm not saying that we should just rush into everything, but I think at some point, like if we don't rush a little bit, we're not going to get really anywhere with our project. And so, I don't know, I just think like there's always going to be cons to an idea. Every idea and like method that we've had has cons, but like so does everything. Like I'm sure cohort 11 had cons to theirs as well. So I don't know. I just think like we have already looked around and seen stuff. I think we kind of just need to like commit and like jump off the cliff and go for it, because if we don't, if we stay on this like cliff for a while, like at some point we're just gonna not have anything, and I think that would be worse. But that's totally just my opinion.
Daisy.
And then Maya.
So,
Maya, sorry.
Derek said something about like crippling both projects if we like don't pick. Here's what I want to say. I think that the group that's interested in like making this, can we hold off on deciding for a week while we like put something together, like a week? Because then whenever we do decide, we can like full-heartedly like go into it. Like I don't want to agree today, like let's do the simulation and then go off and like work on something else.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to be able to like pursue it. And this isn't like looking around more. This is like, we have this idea that we were pretty excited about. At least I was, and I know other people were too. And I don't think that we should just get rid of it because we're worried about like time. Like, I think that there are going to be pros and cons to both. I think that this like next week we can work on getting something together more about it, and then we can make our decision.
No, I agree.
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't discussed this with Adam, so he might like shoot this down later. But like having one group working on a simulation and one group pursuing the idea that we had from last week. I saw him unmute. This is dangerous territory.
Yeah, I just want to say I want to be very clear. I don't shooting down. If that, I mean, I think with you all specifically, I want to be clear because I think that if I'm seen as this way, and if that's the way this is, if this is not seen as a student-run group, then we need to stop right there. So I just want to make sure. I don't think that's what's happening, but I at least want to mention that because I don't want there to be any perceptions that I would shoot anything down. It'd be like, if this is going to help you get to where you go, that's where you go. I just want to be clear because I don't think you meant it that way, but I just, given just situations, I want to make sure. That's all.
Maya, did you want to speak now? I saw her go off camera, but if not, I saw Parrish raise his hand, so I don't. Okay, yeah, Parrish, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I strongly agree with Daisy. I think that we had a lot of people that were behind this that just to throw it to the side just because a couple people want to just roll with whatever's presented to us is not like the best thing to do here, especially because I think in history we've had situations that are like, okay, we have to write one email, like a committee of like 8 people to do that. I think we have a lot of times where we have too many people assigned to do one task, that we definitely have the bandwidth to do 2 things at once, that a couple people that truly believe in it can go after it and like figure out if they really think this is possible. I think we have a lot of people, like our tasks are usually like 4 tasks and then we split up into groups. We need a lot of people that can do things at the same time. We don't have to be doing like 2 tasks for 20 something people. I don't think it's that difficult for us to split up and have this done, at least even for a week, to get some more information together, rather than like stick that on whoever wants to go after it and then have them decide within like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, we were definitely not asking you to make that. Of course, this is a pretty big thing. But yeah, so now that you pointed it out, like my only concern was like that you guys wouldn't have enough bandwidth to do both. But you know, now that you guys have been like saying that you do have the bandwidth to do both, like go for it. Like,
yeah, I've kind of written down names of like, or just kind of what people have expressed which they like better. So, you know, I fully support going after both and exploring both options. We just have to, yeah, get down to it.
I just want to make a quick comment, but like with the limited time that we have left, but you know, a lot of people from the responses did say that they just want like the tasks, they just want to be told what to do. So that's what this simulation thing would be. We would have a very clear direction. We could immediately get into these tasks. But also, if you guys now do feel like you have the initiative to work on the other thing, on our original thing, then do it. Like, we're not trying to stop that. Do it. It's like, if you have the energy to do both, go for it.
I do think all efforts are focused on how to move the cohort toward progress. I want there to be no doubt that that's what all the efforts were for. I mean, I'm going to say this because they won't. Edie and Derek spent like 2 days making sure they talked to every single person in the cohort to get, and then not just that, but then thoughtfully took a step back to say, what did we hear? And then not just that, to say, based on what we heard, what can we propose in order to move the cohort forward? So I think what they heard is some indication, but I actually don't hear a lot of enthusiasm for the idea. To be totally honest, what I've heard so far is mainly resistance, or at least, you know, hey, not wanting to just release the brakes on the idea, which is fine. But maybe, you know, that's what they did. Now that's to get the cohort unstuck with the time we have left. Now that may not be appreciated, or that may not be what you guys want to see happen. But if not, this is absolutely the time to speak up. I know we're at the hour time, but we will have next Sunday. But there's no rule that says you guys can't talk more frequently if your project depends on it, if it's enough of a priority. Frankly, just to be totally clear, leadership coming from within the group toward making something that actually is positive, progressive, shows progress is what I mean, then I would love to see it. Absolutely, totally. All right, I'm gonna stop there. I know we're over, so, but any last wrap up stuff for you guys?
Yes, did anyone else want to make any comments that didn't get to?
I noticed that Maya's finally back.
Yeah, sorry. I had some like weird connection thing earlier. I had my like hand raised and I don't know what happened, like audio went out and everything, but I was just gonna say I'm kind of like with Daisy and Ava and whoever was saying that before, like I was really excited about doing the videos and everything, and I think that would be a good like unique project for us to have, and it would just kind of reach more people. But I also think it would be good to like just take a week, like they were saying, and like really dive into this. And I was just gonna say, I think it's been really good to like encourage people that were excited about the like video idea to I don't know, like be proactive and like work on it, and like if you want that to be a thing or to be our project, to take initiative and do it. And that's for me too, because I actually really like the video idea.
Yeah, so I just want everyone to be on the same page. It's 4 o'clock, so we'll leave soon, but I just want everyone to be on the same page. First of all, number one thing, send Edie and I a message or an email of basically why you still want to be in YPI. Go ahead, Edie.
Yeah, add on to that, why do you want to be in YPI, where you stand with the discussion we've had today, you know, like brutal, honest opinion. This is just going to Derek and I, just so we can scope out where everyone stands from today and where you feel about YPI and your role that you want to play. Also, just like thank you to everyone today for speaking up and being honest. Like I seriously appreciate the discussion that's gone on today. As for the people who supported the interview idea, I'd love to hop on a call with you guys sometime this week. If you want to create a Basecamp page and maybe set up a meeting for sometime this week, Wednesday, whatever, that's kind of midweek, so I just throw that idea out there. But like, you know, those are the steps you have to take. So I fully support everything that went on today.
Yeah, we want to see your initiative on this, so yeah.
Any other last minute comments, concerns? Awesome.
All right, well, I guess we'll see you guys next Sunday, but hopefully you guys will talk a little more over the Basecamp too, and have those messages sent to us like before, like not like a couple minutes before this meeting next week. So yeah, take some time to think about this over the week.
All right. You guys are free to go and keep us.
Thank you, Derek.
Yep. Bye, guys. Before we debrief, do you want to stop recording?
Oh, yes.